Okay, good morning. Well, this study is framed in a project which is called Creative Science, Scientist Women in Environmental, um, sorry, Women in Circular Economy. And it would focus on emphasizing the role of women in technology and in science and to make it visible. And as a part of this study, in order to take a diagnostic of which was the situation in rural areas and in primary education schools, we have done this pilot study in order uh, to later go on with the program and then see what happens with this kind of variables that it seems that can give us a plot of how concerned are children with circular economy and the new models for sustainable development. Okay. United Nations set these 16 sustainable development goals, um, but we consider that one of the main, although all are for sure related with how to improve health in the planet, not only for the planet, but also for humans, or not only for humans, but also for the planet. But we consider that these two are key, are crucial goals because in one direction, education makes children, which are now children, but in future citizens, make a concern and aware of the need of the change. And then good health and well-being for humans is a key concept and a key goal that for us is important and is also important in rural areas and in women, also related with women. Then although all of them are important, we will be focusing this study in these three: good health and well-being and quality of education, because of the future use of these and the future influences and derivatives of these two. Then the background is that sustainable development is crucial for maintaining the planet we live in. But although it was the term used from this, let's say from the 70s, the new paradigm now has changed to circular economy, which is like more global than just sustainable development. And it includes three main pillars, which are environmental, but also economic and social dimensions. And we are more concerned with these two, with this health and well-being and education that could be mainly in this third pillar, which is the social dimension. The United Nations set the quality of education and the search for good health and well-being in the long term as important aspects of social development, sustainable development. Then taking into account the reviewed literature, it seems that one of the variables that can give us an idea of the quality of education and of the research of the search for good health and how humans are feel connected with um, achieving sustainable or promoting sustainable development is a connectedness to nature. Um, and it seems from this reviewed literature that it could give us an idea of the how humans are concerned with the promotion to the change from linear economy to circular economy. Then we set these goals for this study, which are to identify the predictors of connectedness to nature in children and adolescents using as independent variables, knowledge of circular economy, pro-environmental behavior, beliefs about caring of the environment, and satisfaction with life. Then for that purpose, we reach several schools and we deliver some questionnaires. In the questionnaires, or the questionnaires reached 120 young people enrolled in state schools in rural areas of Castilla-La Mancha, which is the region I live in, and the university I work at, and it's a region in the center of Spain. 97 were valid because the other 23 were excluded by different reasons, because they were not completed, 100% completed, or because we didn't get the family consent for the children. Out of these 99 which were valid, 97% were born in Spain. The mean age was 14.24 years, with a standard deviation of 2.71 years. 61.7% out of the 97 were boys, and the range for the ages were from 10 to 19 years. A total of 52.6 of these participants were under 12 years of age, which means in Spain that are enrolled in the Spanish primary education stage, which is compulsory. What are the measures that we took? They were connectedness to nature, that is for which we use a scale, which authors have reported one factor for Spanish participants. They are Matasterron and Elosegui Bandera. It is composed by 14 items that measure the feeling of being emotionally connected to nature, with sentences like, I think of the natural world as a community to which I belong, or I often feel a kinship with animals and plants. The level of agreement was indicated between 1 with a Likert scale of 5 points, totally disagree 1, and totally agree for 5. Cronbach alpha coefficient, which measures the internal consistency of the scale, was 0.89 for our sample, which is really reasonable. Pro-environmental behavior was measured with the PEPS scale. From this scale, the instrument was created through the selection and adaptation of the items to children vocabulary. And then for that, we did a pilot study with 20 of the children with ages below 12 to be sure that they understand or they understood the sentences and the vocabulary. The items were, the frequency of the items was ranged from 1 meaning never to 5 meaning always. And the items were of this kind: how often do you turn off the lights when leaving a room? How often do you switch off the standby mode of appliances or electronic devices? How often do you turn on the TV when leaving a room? Turn off, sorry. And how often do you limit your time in the shower in order to conserve water? How often do you separate out the different recyclable components of your garbage? How often do you travel on foot or bike? How often do you participate in actions in favor of the environment? How frequently do you watch television programs? Or how often do you talk to others about their environmental behavior? The final score ranged from 9 to 45, and the Cronbach alpha coefficient for this sample was 0.72, which means, again, reasonable value for social sciences. The satisfaction with life scale was composed by 5 items. Sentence in like this one: in most ways, my life is close to my ideal, or if I could live my life over, I would change almost nothing. The answer again was proposed in a 5-point Likert scale, from totally disagree 1 to totally agree 5, and the Cronbach alpha coefficient was 0.84. Beliefs on environmental behavior was measured with the Spanish with items chosen from the Spanish Sociologic Research Center, which was published in 2010 and adapted to children, with sentences like, or a statement like, young people like me can do things for the environment. I do everything that is good for the environment, even if it costs me more money or take me more time. Protecting the environment is one of the most important things in life. It is easy for me to know if my way of life is good or bad for the environment, or environmental problems have a direct effect on my daily life. Cronbach's alpha coefficient, again, was 0.83. And the knowledge on circular economy, the last independent variable considered, was offered in a scale with 31 items with agreement that ranges from 1 to 5. And specifically 21 items were developed ad hoc for this study, and the other 10 were taken from Almeida et al. Chrombox alpha coefficient was 0.93, which is, again, very reasonable. Actually, is very good for social sciences. In the procedure, we have a project, which is Creative Sciences, Scientists in the Circular Economy, whose aim is to raise awareness in society of the circular economy and the presence of women involved in the research and development of technologies related with this field. The step we follow that we offer a project introduction to the Teacher Training Center in Castilla-La Mancha region. This is the institution that offers lifelong learning for teachers in schools of infant, primary, and secondary education, which is what complies all the stages before university. This institution informed the schools and those who were interested in sign up to participate in the project, and informed the families about the project participation for their children. Then we collected the informed consent from families and delivered the instrument by using a Google form, which collected not only the scales that I have presented and introduced, but also demographic data about the children and the family. And the study was conducted in compliance with the Helsinki Declaration. This is the link in the web of the project, where we have achieved to interview and collect stories of life, and also the research they are focused on for 10 women at this stage. And it can be accessed in Bio3 project, Ciencia Creativa. Okay, we perform a data analysis of connectedness to nature as dependent variable, the other 4 as independent variables, and covariates, sex and age. Then we explore on a correlational base, and we check also normality of the variables. As all of them were not normal, we apply for all of them non-parametric test. So it means that the correlation was calculated on through Spearman's rho coefficient, and all the tests that we apply were non-parametric. And then we, after analyzing the correlation, we launch a logistic binomial model. We establish also categories for the variables, and they are shown here related with the degree of connectedness to nature. And then we have low degree of connectedness to nature and high degree of connectedness to nature. More or less is 60% in the low and 40% in the high degree from this population. And we got the means of the other variables for these 2 different categories. Once we have explored that, we have decided to use the median as cutoff point, and then the distribution that results is this one. And the low level of connectedness to nature and the high level of connectedness to nature. And then we see that for low level, there is a low value for the other variables: pro-environmental behavior, satisfaction with life, beliefs about environmental behavior, knowledge on circular economy, and the connectedness to nature itself. And the high value of connectedness to nature is also providing high values of the other variables. So it will make us make the correlational analysis, because what we observe that when connectedness to nature is high, the rest of other independent variables are high too. Then we collect these Spearman's rho correlations. All of them were significant except for the covariates analyzed, which are sex and age. Then age, which is the one I mark here, is not significant, but the other are positive and significant, what means that again, the higher the connectedness to nature, the higher the pro-environmental behavior, satisfaction with life, beliefs about environmental behavior, and knowledge on circular economy. The difference for the low and high levels of connected to nature for the other variable are significant, and it is the same for the rest of the variables. The interpretation, we provide also the odds ratio that are not significant, and those are the two that I mark for age and sex. Again, so the covariates analyzed are not that covariates, so because there is no variation in connectedness to nature for sex or age. And the interpretation of the odds ratio, for example, for satisfaction with life, via comparison with the high degree of connectedness to nature to the low degree of connectedness to nature, means that satisfaction with life is 7.016, and represents a change in the odds of being in the low compared with being in the high level of connectedness to nature. So if a person has a low satisfaction with life, it has 7 times more possibilities to be in the low level of connectedness to nature than to be in the high level of connectedness to nature. That's the meaning of the odds ratio. So the results reveal that there are significant differences between participants in the high versus low degree of connectedness to nature on pro-environmental behavior, satisfaction with life, beliefs about environmental behavior, and knowledge on circular economy. And the model that we get, which is a logistic binomial model, is significant, and it provides an explanation of more than 80% of the variance, with a good coefficient Hormes-Lemmes show. So the conclusions are that the predictive variables of high or low connectedness to nature in children and adolescents in rural areas are satisfaction with life, pro-environmental behavior, knowledge on circular economy, and beliefs. And there is no effect of neither sex nor age in our sample. The knowledge on circular economy was the most significant factor among the 4 that are predictors. The knowledge is the more highly predictive variable. And all of the studied variables show a high capacity for predicting the connectedness to nature. Which are the limitations? The sample size, the sample composition, because the sample is a convenient sample, the age range, which is not including the whole population, so it makes the conclusion highly generalizable. The lack of control over strange variables such as socioeconomic data on families, which are also influencing how concerned and how aware of the environment families are. And then the future research lines for us are to try to counteract this limitation, to try to be able to use a representative sample, at least of our region in Castilla-La Mancha, and to collect also socioeconomic data in order to see whether the family stage regarding socioeconomic status can influence the awareness of towards the environment of the family or of the children. These results, well, you find here the references for the scales overall, and the results are published in this journal, which is Sustainability, that belongs to MDPI. So if you want to have more detail, you can find this in this publication. I guess it was published in November. In November 2020. So if you have questions, you have also my contact there if you want anything to know.